Hey everyone, Sophia here. So, you will not believe what happened to me today. It's one of those moments that just makes you feel so alive, you know? I was walking home from the grocery store, completely lost in thought, when suddenly the sky just opened up. It wasn't just a drizzle, it was a full-on downpour. At first, I was annoyed. My bag wasn't waterproof, and my groceries were getting soaked. But then, something shifted. I closed my eyes, tilted my head back, and just let the rain wash over me. Honestly, it felt like magic. All my worries seemed to melt away, and I started laughing. I was drenched from head to toe, but I felt this incredible sense of joy, like I was a kid again, splashing in puddles without a care in the world. It was so refreshing, both literally and figuratively. And you know what? It reminded me how important it is to embrace those unexpected moments of pure, simple happiness. So, let's begin our exciting journey of English improvement together. Remember, I release new videos daily focusing on English speaking and listening skills to help you improve and enjoy your learning journey. So, picture this. It's a drizzly Sunday afternoon. You know, the kind where the world outside is all muted grays and soft whispers of rain against the window pane. Perfect crafting weather. I'd been meaning to do something with all these photos overflowing from shoeboxes under my bed for, well, let's just say a while. Digital is great and all, but there's just something about holding a physical photo, right? The weight of it, the texture, the way the light catches the glossy finish. Anyway, I decided, right then and there, it was photo album time. A handmade photo album. Now, I'm not exactly Martha Stewart, you know? My crafting skills are, let's call them enthusiastically amateur. But hey, YouTube tutorials are a blessing, aren't they? I brewed myself a giant mug of chamomile tea, essential for any crafting endeavor. Obviously, grabbed my laptop, and dove headfirst into the world of bookbinding. Oh, the options. Spiral-bound, Japanese stitched, Coptic binding, it was overwhelming. I felt a bit like Alice tumbling down the rabbit hole, surrounded by glue sticks and fancy paper. I eventually settled on a simple, but hopefully elegant, concertina-style album. Seemed manageable for a first-timer. First hurdle. Materials. I raided my art cupboard, a chaotic explosion of half-used paint tubes, forgotten glitter glues, and various bits and bobs I'd collected over the years. It looked like a craft store had exploded, honestly. I unearthed some thick cardstock, perfect for the pages, a roll of beautiful, deep teal linen fabric, score, and a stack of patterned scrapbook paper. The patterns were eclectic, to say the least. Think polka dots, stripes, and some rather questionable floral designs. But hey, who's judging, right? It's my album, my rules. Cutting the cardstock to size was an adventure. My ruler kept slipping, and my cuts were, shall we say, less than precise. I ended up with pages of varying sizes, which, looking back, adds a certain rustic charm. Yeah, let's go with rustic. I arranged them in the concertina folds, trying to visualize how the photos would look. Then came the gluing. Now, I should mention, I'm not particularly graceful when it comes to adhesives. Glue and I have a complicated relationship. Let's just say there were a few casualties. A slightly sticky keyboard, a rogue glue smudge on my cheek, didn't even realize it was there until hours later, and one very unfortunate incident involving my cat and a wet glue stick. Don't ask, it was chaos, beautiful, sticky chaos. But I persevered. I managed to glue the cardstock pages together, creating the accordion fold structure. It wasn't perfectly aligned, but it held. Progress. Then came the fun part, covering the album with the teal linen. I spread a thin layer of glue, much more carefully this time, after the cat incident, onto the cardstock and gently laid the fabric on top, smoothing it out with my hands. The texture of the linen felt so luxurious against the rough cardstock. It was starting to look like a real album. I trimmed the excess fabric and folded the edges neatly, securing them with more glue. Now, for the inside pages. I wanted to add some pops of color and pattern, so I decided to use the scrapbook paper. This is where things got a bit wild. Remember those questionable floral designs? Well, they made a grand appearance. I cut out squares and rectangles of scrapbook paper, layering them onto the cardstock pages. Some pages got stripes, others polka dots, and a few even got adorned with those rather loud floral patterns. It was a bit of a visual overload, but hey, it was my visual overload. Next up, photo time. I dug through the shoeboxes, rediscovering forgotten memories captured in glossy prints. Baby photos, awkward teenage phases, graduation pictures, holidays with family and friends. It was a trip down memory lane. I laughed, I cringed, I felt a pang of nostalgia for times gone by. Choosing which photos to include was tough. So many memories, so little space. I eventually narrowed it down, opting for a mix of candid shots and posed portraits, funny moments and sentimental ones. I carefully arranged them on the pages, trying to create a visual narrative, a story unfolding with each turn of the page. Sticking the photos down was another sticky situation, literally. I used photo corners, tiny adhesive squares that hold the photos in place without damaging them. It was fiddly work, but I found it oddly therapeutic. With each photo I placed, I relived the memory attached to it. A silly grin at a birthday party, a breathtaking sunset on a beach vacation, a warm hug with a loved one. Finally, after hours of cutting, gluing, arranging, and reminiscing, my handmade photo album was complete. It wasn't perfect. The pages weren't all the same size, the glue smudges were still visible in places, and the scrapbook paper choices were questionable at best. But it was mine, a tangible representation of my memories, imperfections and all. I held it in my hands, feeling the weight of it, the texture of the linen, the slightly bumpy surface of the photos. It wasn't just a photo album, it was a story, my story, and it was so much more meaningful than any digital photo gallery could ever be. You know, I went into this thinking I was just making a photo album. But I ended up creating something so much more. It was a journey, a messy, chaotic, and ultimately rewarding journey of self-expression and rediscovery. And guess what? I'm already planning my next one. Maybe I'll try that Japanese stitching technique this time, though I might need to invest in some cat-proof glue first. Just sayin'. Okay, so, grab a cuppa, settle in, because this is a story I have to tell you. It's about a surprise visit, a real doozy, one that still makes me chuckle, and, you know, cringe a little, when I think about it. It was a Tuesday, I think. Yeah, a Tuesday. A drizzly, gray Tuesday. The kind where the sky looks like a damp dishcloth. I was working from home, bless the internet gods, dressed in my comfiest sweatpants and an old university sweatshirt, you know, the uniform. My hair was, well, let's just say it hadn't seen a brush since the weekend. I was knee-deep in spreadsheets, wrestling with numbers that just refused to behave. The house was a glorious mess. Dishes piled in the sink like a miniature Mount Everest, laundry threatening to take over the living room, and a general air of creative chaos, as I like to call it. My stomach rumbled, reminding me that lunch was long overdue. So, I shuffled to the kitchen, opened the fridge, and stared blankly inside. Pickles, half a jar of mustard, a suspicious-looking container of leftovers, inspiring, right? I settled for a piece of toast with peanut butter, because, let's face it, peanut butter is a food group in its own right. Now, here's where things get interesting. I was munching on my toast, scrolling through emails, when I heard a car pull up outside. Nothing unusual, happens all the time. But then, I heard a familiar car door slam. My heart did a little skip. It couldn't be, could it? My parents live 3 states away. They never just show up. I peeked through the blinds. And there they were, my mom and dad, standing on my porch, looking like they'd stepped out of a travel brochure. Mom in her Sunday best, dad in a crisp button-down. Me? I looked like I'd lost a fight with a laundry basket. Panic. Pure, unadulterated panic. My house looked like a burglar had broken in and then decided it wasn't worth stealing anything. I was a mess. My toast. Oh, the toast. Crumbs were everywhere. I swear, I could feel a peanut butter smear on my cheek. For a split second, I considered pretending I wasn't home. Just ignoring them. Letting them think I was out. But then my mom waved. A big, enthusiastic, "We know you're in there," kind of wave. Deep breath. Okay, game face. I flung open the door, plastering on what I hoped was a convincingly cheerful smile. "Mom, Dad, what a surprise," I chirped, trying to sound like this was a perfectly normal Tuesday afternoon occurrence. They beamed. "Surprise," my mom trilled, hugging me tight. Dad followed suit, his hug a little more bear-like, but equally warm. "We were just in the area," he explained, which was a blatant lie. They'd driven 6 hours, just to be in the area. "Now, remember the state of my house?" They hadn't seen it yet. I was strategically positioned in the doorway, blocking their view. Like a bouncer guarding a very messy club. Come in," I said, trying to sound welcoming, while simultaneously trying to figure out how to magically tidy the living room with the power of my mind. No luck. They stepped inside, and froze. Their smiles faltered, their eyes widened. They slowly scanned the room, taking in the mountain of laundry, the scattered papers, the general disarray. The silence was deafening. I could practically hear the crickets chirping. Finally, my mom spoke. "Oh, honey," she said softly, her voice laced with a mixture of amusement and concern. "Were you robbed?" I burst out laughing. It was either that or cry. "No, Mom, this is just my process, my creative process," I said, gesturing vaguely at the chaos. They exchanged a look that said, "We love her, but she's a little bit crazy," which, fair enough. Then, my dad, bless his heart, started to laugh. A big, booming laugh. And then my mom joined in. And then I was laughing too. We were all laughing, standing in the middle of my messy living room, the tension melting away like butter on hot toast. You know what happened next? They rolled up their sleeves. My mom started folding laundry. My dad tackled the dishes. We spent the rest of the afternoon chatting, laughing, and yes, cleaning. It wasn't the picture-perfect visit I might have imagined, but it was real. It was us. We ordered pizza, because who has time to cook when you're spontaneously decluttering? We reminisced about old times, shared silly stories, and just connected. It was messy, it was chaotic, it was imperfect. But it was perfect, you know what I mean? That surprise visit taught me something. It taught me that it's okay to not have it all together all the time. It taught me that the people who truly love you for who you are, messy house and all. It taught me that sometimes, the best moments in life are the unplanned ones, the ones that catch you off guard, sweatpants and all. And honestly, looking back, I wouldn't trade that messy, chaotic, peanut butter smeared Tuesday for anything. It showed me, more clearly than ever, that love doesn't care about a bit of dust or a pile of laundry. It sees past the mess and straight to the heart of the matter. And sometimes, a surprise visit, however unexpected, is exactly what you need to remind you of that. It's like a little nudge from the universe, saying, hey, even in your sweatpants, you're loved. You're enough. And that, my friend, is a pretty amazing feeling. So, yeah, that's the story of the surprise visit. A little messy, a little chaotic, but full of love. Just like life, right? Now, how about another cup of tea? Hey amazing learners, learning a new language can feel like climbing a mountain, right? But you know what? Even 5 minutes of speaking is better than none. Think about it. Those little moments add up. 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, suddenly, you're speaking so much more than you realized. And that little boost of confidence can make all the difference in the world. It's like planting a tiny seed that grows into something beautiful. And you know what? I have a fun idea for you. Try acting as a character from a drama, even just for a few minutes each day. Imagine you're a charismatic chef while you're cooking dinner, narrating your culinary masterpiece, or maybe a detective observing the world around you on your walk. It sounds silly, but trust me, it helps you practice speaking without the pressure of a real conversation. It's like a secret, playful practice session just for you. Trying to stay motivated despite slow progress is something I think we all experience. Some days, you might understand everything in English but freeze when it's your turn to speak. Other days you might feel like you've taken 2 steps back. It's completely normal. Remember, every little step forward, no matter how small, is still progress. Be kind to yourself throughout this journey. You're doing great. You will not believe what happened to me the other day. I overheard someone practicing English on the bus, and it reminded me of my own journey. It made me think about how we all face similar challenges. How do you stay consistent with your English practice? Share your tips and tricks. I'm sure they'll inspire others, and I can't wait to hear them. Okay, so, you are not going to believe what happened to me the other day at the farmer's market. It's become a bit of a ritual for me, you know? Saturday mornings, sunshine, hopefully. That crisp autumn air, and the promise of the freshest, most vibrant vegetables you've ever laid eyes on. It's like a mini vacation for my senses, honestly. This particular Saturday, I was feeling, I don't know, extra enthusiastic. Maybe it was the perfect latte I'd had beforehand, or maybe it was the catchy tune the street musician was playing, a jazzy rendition of La Vie en Rose. Can you believe it? But I was just buzzing with good vibes. I strolled into the market, that earthy, sweet smell of ripe produce hitting me like a warm hug. Rows and rows of vibrant colors, deep green spinach, fiery red peppers, plump orange pumpkins. It was a feast for the eyes. I felt like a kid in a candy store, except, well, healthier. Much healthier. Though sometimes, a good, juicy peach. Oh, don't even get me started. Anyway, I was on a mission to find the perfect ingredients for a roasted vegetable medley. You know, the kind that makes your house smell like heaven and leaves you feeling all warm and nourished inside? I had this vision of caramelized onions, sweet potatoes with crispy edges, and maybe some Brussels sprouts. Yes, I know, Brussels sprouts are controversial. But hear me out. Roasted with a little balsamic glaze, they're a game changer. So, I'm browsing, picking up a plump tomato here, sniffing a fragrant sprig of rosemary there, and I come across Mrs. Higgins' stall. Now, Mrs. Higgins is a legend at the market. Her vegetables? Forget about it. They're like something out of a fairy tale. Giant, perfectly formed, bursting with flavor. She has these magical green thumbs, I swear. And there they were. The most beautiful butternut squashes I had ever seen. Like, seriously, they were the perfect shade of ochre, smooth and unblemished, just begging to be roasted and pureed into a creamy soup. I had to have them. Good morning, Mrs. Higgins. I chirped, feeling that Saturday morning market-goer enthusiasm bubbling up again. She gave me a warm smile, her eyes crinkling at the corners. Well, good morning to you, dear. Looking for something special today? These butternut squashes, I said, gesturing towards the beauties. They're magnificent, aren't they just? She beamed, her pride evident. Grown with love, these are best in the market, if I do say so myself. And you know what? I didn't doubt it for a second. So, I picked out two plump ones, feeling their smooth skin under my fingertips. Then, my eyes landed on something else. A basket overflowing with these tiny, vibrant purple potatoes. I'd never seen anything like them. What are these? I asked, intrigued. Ah, those are Peruvian purple potatoes, dear, she explained. A bit of a specialty. Hold on to your hat, now, because they're not just pretty. They're packed with antioxidants and have the most wonderfully nutty flavor. Antioxidants? Nutty flavor? I was sold. I'll take a bag of those too, please. Now, here's where things get interesting. I'm fumbling in my bag for my wallet. You know that moment when you're juggling groceries and trying to find your purse and everything feels a bit chaotic? And I accidentally knock over a basket of, well, let's just say they were rather pungent onions. Strong, sharp, and definitely not the sweet caramelized onions I had envisioned for my roast. They went rolling everywhere, bouncing off other stalls, under people's feet. It was like an onion avalanche. I felt my face flush crimson. Mortified doesn't even begin to describe it. Oh my goodness, I am so sorry. I stammered, scrambling to pick them up. My cheeks were burning. I swear I could feel everyone's eyes on me. But then, something amazing happened. Instead of getting annoyed, Mrs. Higgins started laughing. A genuine, hearty belly laugh. And then, other shoppers joined in, helping me gather the rogue onions. It was this spontaneous moment of collective silliness, a shared human experience amidst the hustle and bustle of the market. You know, sometimes the most embarrassing moments turn into the most memorable ones. After the onion chaos subsided, Mrs. Higgins winked at me and said, "Don't you worry, dear. Happens to the best of us. Tell you what, I'll give you a discount on those onions. Maybe you can try pickling them? They make a mean pickled onion, you know. And guess what? I did. I pickled those pungent little onions, following a recipe Mrs. Higgins scribbled down for me on the back of a brown paper bag. And they were surprisingly delicious. A perfect tangy accompaniment to my roasted vegetable medley. So, I went to the market looking for the perfect ingredients for a roast, and what I got was so much more. A lesson in embracing the unexpected, a reminder of the kindness of strangers, and a batch of surprisingly delicious pickled onions. And isn't that what life's all about? Finding the joy in the little things, the unexpected moments, the shared experiences? It's certainly what makes my Saturday morning market trips so special. It's more than just buying vegetables, you know? It's a connection to the community, to the earth, to the simple pleasures of life. And sometimes, it's even a bit of a comedic adventure. Who knew onions could be so entertaining? Okay, so, you are never going to believe what happened when I visited Dunvegan Castle. Seriously. Grab a cuppa, get comfy, because this is a story and a half. It all started with this glorious, sunny day in Scotland. You know those days where the sky is that impossible blue and the air is crisp and clean? It was like that. I'd been dreaming of visiting Dunvegan for ages. It's this ancient castle perched right on the edge of Loch Dunvegan on the Isle of Skye, and it's supposed to be the oldest continuously inhabited castle in Scotland. Can you imagine? Centuries of history, just sitting there. So, naturally, I was practically buzzing with excitement. I took the ferry over. A little bumpy, but the views. Oh my goodness, the views. Sheer cliffs rising out of the sea, dotted with puffins. I could have stayed on that ferry all day. But Dunvegan was calling. When I finally arrived, the castle just loomed. It wasn't some fairy tale, Disney-esque structure, you know? It was solid, imposing, with these thick stone walls that looked like they'd seen everything. And the location, right on the water's edge, with these lush gardens surrounding it. It just took my breath away. I remember walking across the cobblestone bridge to the entrance, the sound of my footsteps echoing, and thinking, wow, I'm actually here. The air smelled of salt from the loch and something else, something earthy, almost ancient. Can you imagine breathing in centuries of history? It sounds cheesy, I know, but that's honestly what it felt like. Inside, it was a bit of a maze. Seriously, those castles were not built for logical navigation. I swear I walked down the same hallway 3 times before finally finding the main hall. But honestly, getting lost was half the fun. Every corner I turned revealed something new. A suit of armor glinting in the dim light, a tapestry depicting some epic battle, a tiny, hidden chapel. And the stories. Oh, the stories the guides told. Tales of clan chiefs, feuding families, hidden treasures, and even a mythical fairy flag said to protect the clan. There was one story about a Spanish princess who was supposedly imprisoned in the castle. Or maybe she was a guest? The details get a bit fuzzy after all these years, but it was something romantic and tragic. It's amazing how those stories cling to the very stones of the place, isn't it? One room that really stuck with me was the library. It was this warm, inviting space filled with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves crammed with ancient texts. The smell of old paper and leather hung in the air, and sunlight streamed in through the tall windows, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. I could have spent hours in there, just breathing it all in. I'm a bit of a bookworm, you know? I even saw the famous Dunvegan cup. It's this intricate, medieval drinking vessel, and it's supposed to have all sorts of magical properties. I don't know if I believe all that, but it was certainly impressive to see. Now, here's where things get a little embarrassing. So, I was admiring this beautiful portrait, right? It was of some important clan chief, all stern and dignified. I leaned in a little closer to read the inscription, totally engrossed, when, whoops. I tripped. Not a little stumble, mind you. A full-on, arms flailing, almost face-planted trip. Luckily, I managed to catch myself on a nearby table, but I knocked over a small vase. It shattered. Everywhere. My face went bright red. I was mortified. A very kind, but slightly startled, guide rushed over to make sure I was okay and to, clean up the mess I'd made. I apologized profusely. stammering something about being clumsy and too enthusiastic. He was very gracious about it, but I could feel my cheeks burning for the rest of the tour. Talk about a memorable moment. After the inside tour, I explored the gardens. They were absolutely stunning. Walled gardens overflowing with flowers, a water garden with these serene little waterfalls, and even a secret path leading down to the loch. I spent ages wandering around, taking photos, and just soaking in the peace and quiet. There were even peacocks strutting around. Seriously, it was like something out of a dream. I sat by the loch for a while, just watching the water ripple and listening to the birdsong. It was so peaceful. It's funny, isn't it? You go to these historical places expecting to be wowed by the grandeur and the history, and you are, but it's often the little moments that stick with you. The smell of the air, the sound of the wind rustling through the trees, the warmth of the sun on your skin. Those are the things that really make a place special. On my way back to the ferry, I stopped at a little cafe in the village and had some delicious scones with clotted cream and jam. You know, the quintessential Scottish experience. I sat there, sipping my tea and watching the sunset over the loch, feeling completely content. It was the perfect ending to a perfect day. Looking back, it wasn't just about visiting a historic castle. It was about experiencing a place, a moment in time. It was about connecting with history in a way I never had before. It was about the unexpected moments, like tripping over my own feet and shattering a vase in front of a bunch of strangers. And it was about the quiet moments, like sitting by the loch, listening to the water lap against the shore, and feeling a sense of peace I hadn't realized I was missing. So, yeah, that was my day at Dunvegan Castle. A little bit of history, a little bit of clumsiness, and a whole lot of magic. You should go sometime. Just try not to break anything. Winking face. Hey everyone, learning a new language can feel like climbing a mountain, right? But remember this. You don't find time, you make it. Think about it. Even 5 minutes of practice a day adds up. It's about weaving English into your life, not letting it take over. Little by little, you're building something amazing, and that deserves a huge round of applause. You've got this. And you know what? A fun way to sneak in some practice is by giving instructions for a game. Imagine you're cooking dinner and explaining to a friend how to make your famous salad dressing, in English, of course. Or, if you're out for a walk, try describing the rules of hopscotch or tag to someone. It's a light, easy way to practice speaking without even realizing it. Honestly, it can feel like magic how quickly these small moments boost your confidence. Feeling pressure to sound perfect. I totally get it. We all want to speak fluently, without stumbling over words or searching for the right grammar. It's normal to feel that little knot in your stomach when you have to speak up. But remember, even native speakers make mistakes. The beauty of language is in communication, not perfection. You will not believe what happened next. I was walking through a park the other day and overheard someone explaining the rules of cricket. It made me think about how many unique and interesting cultural traditions are connected to the English language. It was so fascinating. So, tell me, what's your favorite English cultural tradition or festival? I'd love to hear what resonates with you. Share your thoughts in the comments. Let's chat. Okay, so, you know how sometimes you get this itch? Not a literal itch, but like an itch in your soul? That's how I felt about hiking. I'd seen pictures, you know, majestic mountains, sparkling lakes, people looking all serene. And part of me, a very deep down, dusty part of me, yearned for that. But I was a city girl, through and through. My idea of roughing it was wearing flats instead of heels. So, the idea of actually hiking? Yeah, it was out there. But then, Lisa, my eternally adventurous friend, announced she was planning a hiking trip to Mount Katahdin. Katahdin, just the name sounded intimidating. It's the highest peak in Maine, you know. I, of course, had no idea. I just knew it sounded epic and terrifying. And, because I'm sometimes a little crazy, I said yes. The weeks leading up to the trip were a blur of frantic online shopping. Hiking boots? Check. Backpack? Check. A ridiculous amount of protein bars that probably tasted like cardboard? Double check. I had no clue what I was doing, but I was determined to look the part. The day of the hike finally arrived. We drove for hours, the scenery slowly shifting from cityscapes to rolling hills, then to the rugged, imposing silhouette of Katahdin in the distance. My stomach did a little flip-flop. Excitement? Nerves? Probably a potent cocktail of both. We arrived at the base of the mountain. It was humbling. Towering pines, the scent of pine needles and damp earth, the sound of a rushing stream. It was a sensory overload in the best possible way. And the mountain itself? It just loomed there, massive and indifferent, a silent dare. We started the climb. And let me tell you, those Instagram photos don't capture the reality. It was hard, like, really hard. The trail was steep, rocky, and seemingly endless. I was huffing and puffing within the first hour. Lisa, of course, was bounding up the trail like a mountain goat. Show off. I remember one particular section, a scramble over boulders, where I genuinely thought I might die. Okay, maybe that's dramatic, but I was definitely questioning my life choices. My legs were burning, my lungs were screaming, and I had a sneaking suspicion that those protein bars were mocking me from inside my backpack, but I kept going, partly out of stubbornness, partly because turning back seemed even more daunting. And you know what? It was worth it. We reached a small plateau, a natural balcony overlooking a valley. The view, oh my God, the view. It was breathtaking. A tapestry of green and blue stretched out before us, sunlight glinting off a distant lake. The air was crisp and clean, and the silence, broken only by the wind rustling through the trees, was almost sacred. That moment, right there, all the struggle, all the sweat and the burning muscles, it all faded away. It was just me, the mountain, and that incredible vista. I felt alive, truly, vibrantly alive. We continued our ascent, the terrain changing with every step. We crossed babbling brooks, climbed over fallen logs, navigated rocky scree slopes. It was a constant challenge, but with every obstacle overcome, a new sense of accomplishment bloomed within me. Guess what happened next? It started to rain, not just a light drizzle, but a proper downpour. Of course, the trail became slick and treacherous. My fancy new hiking boots, which I had meticulously broken in, turned out to be not so waterproof after all. My feet were soaked, my spirits were dampened, and I was starting to resemble a drowned rat. But even the rain couldn't completely diminish the magic. The clouds swirling around the mountain peaks, the mist hanging low in the valleys. It added a layer of ethereal beauty to the already stunning landscape. We finally reached the summit. It was a small, rocky clearing, marked by a weathered wooden sign. We were above the clouds. Literally, it was the most incredible feeling. We whooped, we cheered, we took obligatory summit selfies, looking slightly wild and completely exhilarated. The descent was an adventure in itself. Slipping, sliding, occasionally landing on my backside. Let's just say it wasn't graceful. But we laughed, we helped each other, and we made it down in one piece, albeit slightly muddier and more bruised than when we started. By the time we reached the base of the mountain, I was exhausted, sore, and covered in mud. My feet ached, my knees protested with every step, and I had a distinct aroma of pine needles and damp earth clinging to me. But you know what? I felt amazing. That first hiking adventure wasn't just about conquering a mountain. It was about conquering my own self-doubt, pushing my limits, and discovering a strength I didn't know I possessed. It was about connecting with nature in a way I never had before, feeling the raw, untamed beauty of the world around me. It was about the quiet moments of contemplation, the shared struggles and triumphs with a friend, the sheer, unadulterated joy of reaching the summit. And it was about realizing that sometimes, the greatest adventures are the ones that take you completely out of your comfort zone, the ones that challenge you, push you, and ultimately, change you. So, would I do it again? Absolutely. In a heartbeat. Maybe after a long, hot bath and a week of recovery, but definitely yes. Because you know, that itch? It's gone. Replaced by something much deeper, a quiet hum of contentment, knowing that I can do hard things, that I can embrace the challenge and find the magic in the struggle. And that, my friend, is the story of my first hiking adventure. What do you say? Fancy joining me on the next one? Just promise me you'll bring extra socks. And maybe a slightly more palatable selection of protein bars. You know what I mean. So, you won't believe what happened the other night. I went to see a play. A local play, mind you. Not some big Broadway production, but one of those charming, small-town affairs, you know the kind? The ones put on by the community theater group in the old, slightly creaky auditorium downtown. It had been ages since I'd done something like that. Life just gets in the way, doesn't it? Work, errands, Netflix binges, the usual suspects. But something prompted me. Maybe it was the flyer I saw pinned to the community board at the grocery store. Maybe it was a sudden yearning for something real, something tangible in this digital age. Whatever it was, I'm glad it did. The play was called The Whispering Elms, which, admittedly, sounded a bit like a gothic horror novel. But the description promised a heartwarming story about a small town coming together during a blizzard, and honestly, that sounded pretty perfect for a chilly autumn evening. The auditorium itself was a character in its own right. It had that unmistakable scent of old wood and dust, mixed with the faintest hint of mothballs. Maybe it's that peculiar aroma that only seems to exist in places steeped in history, you know? It brought back a flood of memories of school plays and talent shows, a strange mix of nostalgia and mild stage fright, even though I wasn't performing. The seats were plush velvet, a faded burgundy that had seen better days but still held a certain grandeur. I found a spot near the aisle, settling in with my program, the crisp paper crackling in my hands. The lights dimmed, and a hush fell over the audience. There's something magical about that moment, isn't there? The anticipation hanging thick in the air, the collective breath held in. Then, the curtain rose. Now, I have to admit, the first few minutes were interesting. The set was clearly handmade, a charmingly wonky depiction of a general store. One of the snow-covered trees looked suspiciously like it was made of painted cardboard boxes, and I swear I saw one of the snowdrifts wobble precariously when an actor brushed past it. But you know what? It just added to the charm. It was real, it was raw, it was effort, and it was heartwarming. The actors themselves were a mixed bag, as you might expect in a local production. There was the overly enthusiastic teenager playing the town mayor's son, who clearly hadn't quite mastered the art of subtlety. Every line was delivered with the dramatic flair of a Shakespearean tragedy, even when he was just asking for a glass of milk. Then there was the sweet, elderly woman who played the town gossip. She stole every scene she was in with her impeccable comic timing and a twinkle in her eye that suggested she knew exactly what she was doing. It was endearing, really. The story itself, while simple, was surprisingly captivating. The blizzard trapped the townsfolk in the general store, forcing them to confront their differences and rediscover their shared humanity. There were moments of genuine humor, like when the town's two rival bakers ended up having a bread-making competition to see who could make the best sourdough starter with limited resources. And there were moments of poignant sadness, like when the old shopkeeper revealed his regret over not reconciling with his estranged daughter. And then, something unexpected happened. Midway through the second act, the lights went out. Complete darkness. A collective gasp rippled through the audience. For a moment, there was absolute silence. That kind of stunned silence where everyone is holding their breath, waiting to see what happens next. Then, from somewhere in the back of the auditorium, a voice, clear, strong, and melodic, began to sing. It was an old folk song, something about resilience and hope, and it filled the darkness with an unexpected beauty. Guess what happened next? Other voices joined in, hesitantly at first, then with growing confidence. The entire audience, cast and crew included, became a choir. It was magical. Truly, it felt like a spontaneous act of communal creation, a testament to the human spirit's ability to find light in the darkness. The power went back on a few minutes later, but the feeling lingered. You know what I mean? That feeling of shared experience, of connection, of something real. The play continued, and even though the technical difficulties had thrown off the rhythm a bit, it didn't matter. The actors seemed energized, the audience was more engaged, and the story resonated even deeper. It wasn't perfect, not by a long shot. The scenery wobbled, the lines were sometimes fumbled, and the sound system crackled occasionally. But it was real, it was alive, And it was beautiful. When the curtain finally closed, the applause was thunderous. It wasn't just polite clapping. It was heartfelt, genuine appreciation for the effort, the passion, and the shared experience. I felt a lump in my throat, and I realized I had a silly grin plastered on my face. Walking out of the auditorium into the cool night air, I felt lighter, refreshed. It was more than just being entertained. It was a reminder of the power of community, the beauty of imperfection, and the magic that can happen when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable and connect with something bigger than ourselves. It made me think about how often we get caught up in the polished, pre-packaged entertainment that's so readily available these days, and how much we miss out on the raw, unfiltered experiences that can truly touch our souls. So, yeah, that's my story. A simple trip to a local play turned into something unexpected, something meaningful. It reminded me that sometimes, the most profound experiences are found in the most unexpected places. It made me realize the importance of supporting local art, of embracing imperfection, and of seeking out those moments of genuine connection that make life worth living. It made me want to slow down, to be present, and to appreciate the small things. You know what I mean? Those little sparks of joy that remind us what it means to be human. And honestly, I can't wait to go back for the next production. Who knows what magic might unfold? Well, thank you so much for watching and staying with me through this whole video. I really appreciate you being here and connecting with me. It means the world. If you'd like to stay updated with new daily content focused on English speaking and listening, remember to follow, like, subscribe, and share this video. You know, before we go, it made me wonder, are you learning something new next weekend? It is always so lovely to hear what everyone is thinking about and planning. Plus it's a fantastic way to practice writing in English. Sharing your thoughts really helps you connect with others, too. See you tomorrow, and remember to take care, stay consistent, and keep practicing.